got it. Okay. Okay. Hi, my name is Shirley McCormick. I am a member of the League of Women Voters of the Harrisburg area. There are about 32 local leagues in Pennsylvania, and then there's obviously the state league and then a national league. And we are nonpartisan, which means we do not support any political party nor any candidate. We do take positions on various issues, and we then encourage our members to support those issues by writing to their legislator or to the newspaper, or going and voting for candidates relative to the positions. We were formed a little over 100 years ago when women got the right to vote in 1920, and our purpose was to educate, like I'm doing, hopefully doing today, because we had millions of new voters, all these women who could possibly vote. And so our purpose is to get people registered, to get people to understand about the voting process, and then more importantly, go to the polls or do a mail-in ballot to actually vote. So that's what we are and who we are. And we'll go to the next slide. I'm technologically challenged, and Dana has very nicely agreed to run my slides for me. This is our website. If you are interested, this again is just our local league. There is a state website as well. We're nonpartisan, and don't let that $5 fool you. That's for students. But if you happen to be a student studying nursing, you can become a member for $5. You can move to the next slide. So I was asked to talk about why you should bother even voting. Everybody gets all excited about the presidential election. Yeah, oh my goodness. And that's important. Needless to say, it's important. But then we don't care as much about the state elections or the local elections. And what you have to understand is those people probably affect you a lot more than the president does. Your education, if you are going to a state school, the tuition really depends on how much the state is paying to the Millersville universities or Shippensburg universities. And that is key in understanding that. They also set some financial aid terms, school curriculum. Now we're down at the local level with your school boards. They are having a lot of debate now about what should be in school and what shouldn't be in school. And so your vote is very important, that you get school board members who align with what you think about the school curriculum. Your job, minimum wage, the hours that you are working, safety standards within pretty much any kind of profession, licensing requirements for nurses set obviously by the state in coming up with the requirements. Tax rates, very important. Yes, you pay federal tax, but you also pay state tax. You also pay a local tax. You also pay property, if you own property tax. And those school boards, again, are deciding that because the property taxes fund the schools beyond the amount of money they may get from the state. So the tax rates are set by these people. And how does the candidate feel about taxing? Your health care and health insurance availability. We can talk about the Affordable Care Act. These kinds of things are set by those political people deciding we're going to provide this, we're not going to provide that. Healthcare issues on making the COVID vaccine available or not available to people. Your life and your future. So many issues in your community. Safety, the police that are patrolling your municipality. Immigration, more at a national kind of level, the regulations for allowing people to immigrate. Criminal justice issues, there's been a lot of talk about that because there are a lot of people that are incarcerated because they can't make bail. Haven't been convicted of anything. They've been charged with something, but they can't get out of bail because they can't get out of jail because they can't make bail. So they could sit for months in jail and end up not being convicted of anything. Gun control, whether you're for gun control or you're against gun control. Look who is deciding whether we will have it or we won't have it. The candidates that you elect. Climate change and the environmental policies, big ticket item lately. And what is your position on them? Are we doing enough? We aren't doing enough. The whole debate between we need these companies in Pennsylvania to provide jobs, but is that harming our environment? Gender equality issues, another real hot button item now. Particularly, we go back to school boards who are deciding whether transgender students can play in the sport of the gender of which they identify, or must they stay in sports with the gender to which they were born. So depending again on all of these things, where you stand, what you think about it, you're looking for candidates who agree with your position. So you're affected at the national, the state, and the local level. And it's very important that you exercise your right to vote to try to get the representation that aligns with your feelings. Trust me, because it's happened to me, you're going to vote for the person who does, and they may not win. But that doesn't mean forget that voting thing, because I tried and he didn't win, and or she didn't win, and I'm not going to try anymore. Well, the point is now you try even harder because you truly believe about this particular issue or issues, and you want to make sure that the next election you're out there voting and getting your friends and other people who feel the same way. So very important, and why you should be going to the polls. We'll go to the next slide. And anytime you have a question, just interrupt me or a comment. So it's easy. Register to vote, educate yourself about the candidates and the issues, and then vote by mail or in person. 1, 2, 3, not a problem. Next slide. So to register to vote, you must be a U.S. citizen, and a lot of this you probably already know, and a resident of your election district for at least 30 days prior to the election. So if you are moving, election day is May 17th, and you have just moved to this new place, you're going to vote by absentee to where you lived before, because you're not eligible in this current district. A thing a lot of people don't know is that you need to be 18 by election day. Registering to vote closed this past Tuesday on May the 3rd. If you were 18 by May the 3rd, you could have registered to vote. And you know, up until May 3rd, even though you're not going to be 18 until May 12th. As long as you'll be 18 on or before election day. This is the state's website where you can do a ton of different things, but minimally you can register to vote there, or you complete a paper registration form. At this point, registration is closed. You can probably go on and register, but you will not be able to vote in the primary. They will not process it until after the primary, and then they start processing anybody who registers between now and the 17th, when election day is. To fill the form, you need a driver's license or the last 4 digits of your social security number. And current law is deadline is 15 days before the election, May 2nd. Again, a little late for now, but you can register for the general election. So we'll go on to the next slide. Educating yourself, step number 2, not easy at all. So here are some websites. Vote 411 is the League of Women Voters website. And if you go to that, you're going to click on a thing that says find what's on your ballot. It's then going to ask for your address, and then it's going to list the positions that are going to show up on your ballot. I think we all know governor, lieutenant governor, senator, and any local people that are there. You can click on any one of those jobs, and the candidates that are seeking that job will be listed there, possibly with their pictures. The league sends out an email to all the candidates running and asks them to go online and respond to this request for Vote 411. They put a little bio of themselves, and then there are usually 2 or 3 questions that we ask the candidates that they then respond to. They fill it in. They do not send it to us and we edit it and fill it in. We do not touch it. We send the email and link to them, and they respond to the questions. If you are seeing candidates listed there and it says no response from the candidate, that's exactly what it means. They have not taken the opportunity to provide responses to the questions that are there, which makes it really, really difficult if you're trying to find out, so where does this person sit? So it's good to an extent because there are candidates listed there. They have responded, and you can see. Now, again, these are questions that we specifically ask. You'll see how they feel about that. They may not be hot button items for you. justfacts.votesmart.org, another website. And on that particular one, you can put in your address and it'll bring back candidates, or you can put in a candidate's name and it'll bring back information about the candidate. Part of the problem with this website, because I will say, these websites are really good to an extent, just like every website you've ever visited. They're good to an extent. It's usually better to put in a candidate's name, but the problem with it is if the candidate has not held a position before, and there are several candidates running like that, they're going to have limited information, because what Just Facts provides you is, and I'm cheating and looking at my sheet, it provides their bio, their voting record. So if they haven't held office before, there won't be a voting record. The positions that they have taken on various things, their ratings by various groups. So there are buttons to click on. I want to see the ratings. Speeches that they may have made. And again, these are probably elected officials. The particular one I like on this is funding, because they don't have to have held office. If you click on funding, you're going to see the names of organizations and or people and how much money they have contributed to this candidate. I find that interesting because I'm still looking for the candidates that will pass a law saying that every citizen of Pennsylvania should get chocolate once a month sent to their home. Has had no traction. Nobody's interested in it. And so I want to see if Hershey is sponsoring any of these people, because I think I stand a better chance. Hopefully you understood that was facetious. But I find that a good thing to look at, to see who is supporting these candidates and how do I feel about those organizations that might be doing that. Ballotpedia, another good website to visit. On the left side of the website, it'll say election, 2022 elections. And then under it, it's going to list the positions that are up for election. And you can pick governor. And then you're going to have to select Pennsylvania, and you'll see the candidates that are running. It'll do a bio again, and you'll see information about the candidates running for the different positions. Again, more information if they have ever held political office, because it's really, really hard to tell you a candidate's position if they have held office, you see their position, you see what they voted for, you see what they've made speeches on the Senate floor regarding. These other people who have not, they're telling you in their ads that they believe that we should have chocolate or we shouldn't have chocolate. We can not be sure that that's really how they would vote when the bill comes before them. Factcheck.org is another good website because there's a list of statements that have been made, and they are going to tell you whether those are true statements or they're not true statements. They will have a meter, totally false, kind of false, in between true and false, partially true, very true. My favorite is pants on fire, if you're familiar with the term liar, liar, pants on fire. And you can ask a question for them to, if they have the material, that they fact check to see something that you read that a candidate may have said or is contending is true. You can fact check to see how very true it is or not. PolitiFact also can give you information on the factualness of political statements that have been made. These websites, any website that you're looking at, always try to determine who's sponsoring this website, because they may have agendas. Obviously, I'm going to say the first one, the League of Women Voters, doesn't have an agenda, and we really, truly try not to. Ballotpedia also, they are just trying to present the information as best they can. So looking at these may help you in deciding about candidates or not. Move to the next screen, please. Some other, educate yourself some more. These are partisan, and we know these are partisans. The individual candidate's website, you can visit that. Many of them will tell you they believe in the chocolate bill or they don't believe in the chocolate bill. And they will tell you what they are standing for or what they hope to accomplish. But obviously, it's prejudicial because it's my website, and I'm not going to tell you I beat my wife for Pete's sake. No. So understand that there is a little bias there. I am the greatest is probably what you will hear on every single one of those websites. Partisan news outlets, the very long website here, to look for news bias ratings, and they will rate various news sources. If you read something from the Shirley McCormick newsletter and you want to go to them and say, so what about this newsletter, the Shirley McCormick newsletter? And they will tell you really biased. All she cares about is chocolate and nothing else. So anything you read in it, a good idea if you're reading various things and you want to know how trustworthy. Obviously, Facebook, Twitter, all the other social media kind of things, some candidates use them to present various things. Most of them have a Facebook page, which my understanding is younger generation could care less about, but it's a possibility. So let's go to the next screen, Dana. This should look familiar to you, psna.org/advocacy. I had been asked how your particular profession finds out about issues that's of importance to your profession. Unfortunately, I couldn't find any place where any candidate is addressing, and I don't know all the things that are important to you, but to your profession. I did go to this website and saw that there were issues that you are concerned about having the chief nursing officer of the Commonwealth, and there is a bill currently in the legislature. I don't think it's made it out of committee that would create such a position. I think there was also, you were concerned about patient safety, and there are other bills in the Senate and in the House on nursing scope and standards of practice and updating that. And you can find this information on the Nursing Association website, and they are following these bills. So you can see these bills and whether they're getting any traction and will be voted on. I noticed also on this website that you do have a thing called a legislative ambassador program, that if you want to become involved, you can become one of these ambassadors, and it allows you to participate in virtual calls, send letters of introduction to elected officials, because not only electing these people, but once they get there, remember they said they'd do this chocolate thing, but you haven't seen them introduce a bill yet. So you can contact them, you can visit them, you can be part of that. I noticed also that there was a candidate endorsed in the 194th district in Pennsylvania. I think a former president of the association is running for office. So I do not know, but in that they endorsed that candidate, they may be looking at candidates to try and see their perspective to your profession. But it's very, very hard, because the hot button issues now are voting access. Does everybody have an ability to vote? Was there illegal voting done, and what are we going to do about it? Real hot button issue. Environment, hot button issue. The economy, hot button issue. And that's the kind of thing you're going to see them responding to, because there are many, 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 many nurses out there, but there are also even more of other people in other professions, and they're trying to make themselves attractive to the greatest number of people. But I think through your website, which is doing a really good job of following all of this stuff, you can keep yourself informed about what bills are there, what is happening, and whether they are seeing a particular gubernatorial candidate that is in good alignment with what you want to do. The last website is another League of Women Voter website. PALWV is the statewide website. They did a candidate forum, and it is a virtual thing. If you click on this and start, there is a video for just the governor, lieutenant governor, and the US Senate position, because it's a state league. They can only look at statewide elections. They begin it by, for instance, on the governor, explaining the governor. He's elected for 4 years. This is what his job is supposed to be according to the Constitution. And they describe that. Then they go to the candidates for governor and ask them 3 questions. First question, what do you consider to be the most important role of your job? Second question was, back to the voting, how will you ensure that everybody has an opportunity to vote and that all the votes are counted? And the third question was, we are very divisive in our country today, and how would you try and bring everybody together in order to do the best for all of the people? Those are the 3 questions they asked of everyone. However, much like Vote 411, not all of the candidates participated. They invited all of the Republican, all of the Democratic, because Pennsylvania is a closed primary. Only Republicans and Democrats can vote, and those are the only candidates that will be on the ballot. So you will not find every single candidate there, but it may be worth your while to hear what the candidates who have chosen to participate have to say. That may help you decide between one or the other. the video starts and it goes through all of these, but there is a place that you can click and it'll just list them so that, you know, if I don't have an hour to listen to this whole thing, I'll listen to this guy and then I'll listen to that guy or this woman and that kind of thing. So it's another way of hearing directly from the candidates, at least in response to those 3 questions. My last way to educate yourself is if you are aware of any debate or forum of the candidates they had on television, the Democratic candidates running for the Senate and the Republican candidates running for the Senate, they had 2 separate debates. I think I'm a Harrisburg listening person. ABC 27 in Harrisburg may still have those videos there where you can hear them responding to a number of questions from the press that were conducting this. So this is my best way of trying to help you educate yourself about the candidates before you go and vote. So we can move on, Dana. You probably are aware that we had new federal and state district maps drawn. This was necessary because every 10 years a census is taken, and that may change. Well, it obviously changed for Pennsylvania because we used to have 18 senators to the US Senate. We lost 1 because we lost population. We are now down to 17. That's one reason. The second thing is our state constitution says that the maps are to be drawn in such a manner that there is, in essence, the same number of people in each district, okay? And that they are drawn so that we're not splitting up a town. The line doesn't go through the middle of the town. These people on the left are in the 108th and these people on the right are in the 107th. And so they are to be contiguous. So it's not, you know, okay, this group over here out near Pittsburgh, plus this group over here near Scranton, that's going to make up the 108th district. No, they have to be contiguous. You've probably heard a lot of brouhaha about gerrymandering, and Pennsylvania has the distinction of probably being the most gerrymandered state in the Union. But new maps have been drawn. There was a fight. The Supreme Court had to redraw the federal map because there was a lot of people distraught about the map that the Senate drew. So if you're not certain, did my district change? Has anything changed? You can go to this website, scroll down a little bit, put in your address, and it's going to bring back your maps. It'll have the old map, and it'll have the new map. And it has your address definitely there. The other thing it shows is the percentage of Democrats and the percentage of Republicans and the percentage of Latinos and the percentage of Blacks that were in your old district and what that percentage looks like in the new district. For the most part, your district probably did not change, but you want to check to see who you're voting for. Now we are voting for we'll talk about that later. We are voting for a US senator, that's the federal map, 1 US senator, that's statewide. Then we're voting for federal US Congress people, and they run every 2 years. And so has your congressional district changed? And then there are a few state senators that are up for election, and all of the representatives to the Pennsylvania House of Representatives are up for election. And those districts have changed quite a lot. So you may want to check that out. So I highly recommend this to just get a look at it, make sure you know who you're voting for. Next slide, please. Okay, so obviously you can vote in person. Your polling place is on your voter registration card, or again, that statewide website will tell you where your polling location is. Polls are open election day, Tuesday, May 17th, from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. If you have moved and this is your first time voting, they will ask for some kind of photo ID or an ID with the address if this is your first time in that place. You will hear a lot of discussion from the candidates that they want to require ID every time you come to vote. League of Women Voter has taken a position on that, and we are opposed to it. There was a law passed like that a few years back, and we took them to court, and we won to eliminate the need for ID. And our reasoning is there are a lot of people, driver's license or a typical kind of thing. There are a lot of people who do not have a driver's license. Yes, you can get a state issued substitute if you're not a driver, but a lot of people have difficulty getting to those places for ID. And our position is when you sign the poll book, they compare your signature to the signature they have on file, and that is your identification. There was a little position on the league. You make your own decision about whether voter ID is a good idea, but this is just currently just first time in a new polling place. Next slide, please. Okay, you can vote by mail or absentee ballot. A mail-in ballot currently, because again, there is a lot of discussion about eliminating this, is available to anyone. You don't need a reason for wanting to do a mail-in ballot. An absentee ballot is actually written in our state constitution, and it is available only to people who have a specific reason why they can't go to the poll. They're going to be out of town on election day. They are physically unable to get to a poll. And if those are your reasons, then you're using an absentee ballot because it's going to ask you why you can't go to the poll. Again, mail-in ballot doesn't care, and they will just send you that. You can again request either one of those on the PA Voter Services .pa.gov website. You'll be asked questions that will determine whether you're a regular mail-in or whether you're an absentee ballot. Now, you need to, the deadline for this to get the application is next Tuesday, the 9th. But you want to get it long before that. Move back to the one, no, move back. Wait, what happened? You went to the end. Can you go back a couple slides back further? There, that's where we were. Go forward one slide. Okay. You must apply for the mail-in ballot by 5 p.m. on the Tuesday before the election, which is next Tuesday, the 9th. But don't wait to apply because you send your application in. They have to mail you the ballot. You have to fill the ballot out, and that has to be back at your county election office by 8 p.m. on election day. So if you're just getting your application to them on the 9th, that doesn't leave you a lot of time, 9th, the 10th. That doesn't leave you a lot of time to get that ballot, fill it out, and get it back to them by 8 o'clock on the 17th. So hand carry your application to your election office, get that ballot, and return it to them immediately. So you can go on now. Thank you. If you're doing mail-in, follow the ballot instructions very, very carefully because there are two envelopes. One is the secrecy envelope, and your ballot has to go into that envelope and be sealed and then placed into the ballot into the envelope that will mail it to your election office. And on the back of that, you must sign it and date it. ballots returned by mail or in person, you can't do third-party delivery. You can't say, well, here, have my husband take that in for me. That's a big no-no. Certainly in person. If you're putting it in a mailbox, yeah, your husband can drop it in the mailbox. I didn't write the law, so this is just what the law is. Secure ballot drop boxes may be available in your county. Call your county election office to see if it is. I live in Lancaster County, and the only drop box that they have moved it into the election office, so it's not out and available 24 hours a day for people. So move on one more. Here's who we're electing: the Pennsylvania governor, Pennsylvania lieutenant governor, one of our two U.S. senators, Senator Toomey is our current senator, as is Bob Casey, but Toomey decided not to run for re-election, so his position is vacant. All of Pennsylvania's U.S. House of Representatives are up for election. All Pennsylvania state representatives are up for election. They run every 2 years for a 2-year term. Some Pennsylvania state senators are up for election, not all of them, because there are 50 of them. And we split the state up and don't have them all elected in the same year. Next slide, please. So important dates. The last day to register to vote, you're too late. If you go to register now, you will be registered for the general election in November, but not right now. Again, the last day to request the mail-in or absentee ballot is next Tuesday, May the 10th. And if you get or have gotten a mail-in ballot, you must return it to your county elections office by 8 p.m. on election day, which is May 17th. So you want to keep those dates and times in mind, and depending on your work schedule and that you are able to get it where it needs to be by the time that it needs to be there. Next slide, please. So your vote, your future. In the 2020 presidential election, we had the largest turnout that we probably ever had. 160 million people voted. It's about 67% of the voting eligible population. Highest number in 120 years. But I think we all recall that that was a very contentious election. So a lot of people went. Last year, the election was for local people like mayors, township supervisors, city council. We had something like a 28% turnout of voters. Huge difference between these two. And remember the very beginning. Those local elections are extremely important to you. They're taxing you, they're protecting you, they're picking up your trash. That's where you ought to care a good deal also, not just the presidential. So even in this very large turnout, there were still about 80 million eligible people who did not vote. We used to have a slide that talked about age-wise and the people in the 18 to 23 age range. About, again, 27, 28% of them voted. People over age 65 had a 70% turnout in voting. We'd use this for school kids to be able to say, okay, these people over 65, I happen to be one of them. Do you want me deciding who's going to be voting for the things you care about? Or do you want to get there and see that candidates who really represent you are elected? And the only way you do that is to cast a vote, to register and to cast a vote. 3 important things: make sure you're registered, educate yourself about which candidates you want, and then vote either by mail or by going in person. Very important. Who do you want to decide your future? I think that's the last slide. Questions, comments, anything that I should have said, but I didn't?
No, but Shirley, I want to say that thank you, first of all, for that presentation. It's very helpful. But I also appreciate that the League of Women Voters sponsors the debates, because again, in order to better educate yourselves, it's wonderful to be able to go there. And, you know, they do take some of your questions from the audience, if you will. And that is helpful, but I really would like to see more of the debates going on. You know, I think when I ran in 2010, there was only one League of Women Voters debate. I'd like to see like more than one during the time that we have to, you know, get to know these candidates.
I don't think we locally had any for the primary. But we have a rule. If we were going for the general election, we will not hold the debate if there are only two candidates, presumably Democrat and Republican, and only one of them responds positively, because that looks prejudicial.
Yes.
In doing that.
Okay.
We held a debate for the 48th State Senatorial District, which is in the Harrisburg area, last spring. There happened to be 4 candidates: Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, and an independent. We held the debate and the Republican did not respond, but we held the debate anyway because we had more than one candidate say that they would come, and we let people know. So our problem has been in getting candidates to agree to come to these debates. It's unfortunate. Much like Vote 411, you will see that a number of candidates did not respond to our questions. And here's a very simple thing. They just have to put down their opinion about these questions. Nobody's going to come back and say, hey, that was a stupid idea. They're going to read what they said. And you will notice very, very, very many candidates did not respond. So
I don't think that's unusual, because I know that PSNA puts out the questionnaires for candidates as well. And and sometimes they answer and sometimes they don't.
They don't.
But you know, that doesn't help the public, become engaged and educated about the voters. And so what ends up happening is, you know, it's only name recognition that sort of they get put into office, which is really discouraging.
No, absolutely, it is. We tried to have a debate in Perry County for a state House of Representatives person who had held the position for, probably 24 years, about 12 terms. Wow. And there was an opposing candidate, but we could not get that incumbent to be willing to discuss. I don't know why. I mean, every argument we presented, I never did talk to him. I talked to his campaign manager. They had, well, we're not happy about that. No, we want to see the questions ahead of time. We said, we don't show the questions ahead of time. Right. You know, and so there were just obstacles. Never did do it. And the incumbent again won overwhelmingly. So you are correct. But we do not know how to get these people willing to speak publicly. I even wrote to him and said, you know, the election is like you're going for a job interview. Yeah. You are in front of your employer. These voters are your employer. And they want to ask you questions to determine whether you really deserve this job or not. Yeah, well, that went over like a lead balloon. They still would not participate. I agree with you. We would love to do more of these, but we find the problem that we do not get the candidates to participate. We will continue.
It's too bad the public doesn't know that. Do you know what I mean? That person refused to participate.
Exactly. I mean, they did in the 48th because the newspaper was covering the debate, and they wrote this article that the Republican candidate did not show up. Well, the Republican candidate wrote to the newspaper and said, I had a conflict that night. I wrote a letter to the editor of the newspaper and said, we emailed, we called the candidate, we called the chair of the party in the county that he represented, and said, let me know dates that you're available. And he never answered. We would have scheduled it on a date he was available had he answered. So we tried to go back to the public to say, look, we tried. He never answered, or we possibly could have picked a date that he would have been able to be there. We would have done that.
Yeah.
I saw there was like a question in the chat. Was it something somebody was asking or not?
Just compliments.
Oh,
Compliments.
compliments. Okay.
Everyone collected
wanted
lots
to-
of great info. Go ahead, Wayne.
Yes. I wanted to pay my compliments too.
Oh,
Betsy
thank
introduced me to the league many, many years ago. And they're my go-to resource, my wife and I's go-to resource for especially like local elections for our school board members
Yes.
and everything like that. I was also reading the bylaws for your local chapter a little while ago, because it's just something I like to do. And I was pleasantly surprised.
Okay. Okay.
Right. I was pleasantly surprised to see that anyone who's a voting age can join.
Yes. So and a lot of people don't know that because the name is the League of Women Voters, but we do have men. It's anyone age 16 and older may join, which is where that student rate comes in. So high school students for $5 can join. But yes, anyone is eligible to be a member, and certainly, the more people that we have that can help us spread the word and help us do debates, as Betsy had asked for, we would love that. We would love that participation. And as I said, depending where you live, there are 32 local leagues around the state, but you can be a member at large of the state league, and you will get information from them about things that are happening to keep you aware.
Thank you. I also wanted to talk about the PSNA process a little bit. We are nonpartisan as well.
Right.
We endorse in a nonpartisan way. We endorse candidates based on how they support nursing. We have different levels of endorsement. At the simplest level, we will say we endorse you. At a little bit higher level, we'll say we'll endorse you and here's some money. And then if they're really strong supporters, then we will endorse and attend some of their PAC events. We build those relationships because we have people at the Capitol interacting with the legislators. So we have that knowledge. We do send out questionnaires to candidates. Like Betsy said, some respond, some don't. We based our endorsements off of that as well. We are more likely to endorse or spend money or to help support candidates who do have an active record of actually doing something to help, either voting for supporting our legislation or supporting us as well. And we have a strict policy laid out for that. We have two committees. We have a government relations committee and a political action committee for members that sit down, they review those questionnaires. They meet with our government affairs lobbyist and discuss who to endorse. We also tend to endorse nurses first. So as you had mentioned, Tarek Khan, a former PSNA president, is running in the Philadelphia area, and we came out fairly quickly to endorse him. And again, they have to support our issues as well, but really important to us to have members run as well for House and Senate seats or any elected office. There's a lot of attention at national politics, but like you said, really where things can happen a little bit quicker is the state level.
Absolutely.
Not always in Pennsylvania, but State level is really important to get things passed in our area. And as you'd mentioned, our top 3 priorities are patient safety, which talks about staffing ratios, the CNO bill, which would implement a chief nursing officer of the state, and then also full practice authority for our advanced practice nurses in the state. Thank you.
No, I appreciate your doing that. That's why I put your website there, because I assume the audience would be particularly interested in the candidates who are supporting their profession, and your place will give them that kind of information. The other places, if they have other issues they're interested in, they will find it there. I don't know, have you been successful in any of the gubernatorial or senatorial people responding to you about nursing issues or not?
I believe Governor Wolf did when he first ran 8 years ago.
Okay. But not the current batch.
We have not reached out. We have not done any endorsements for primaries other than Tarek at this point.
Well, and this is a personal, take my league hat off. There is such a huge group of candidates, and it makes more sense to get that whittled down to the person who we really have to the people that we really have to look at in November, because we're getting rid of the chaff and seeing who the wheat is going to be, and going from there. Makes sense. And I guess, Dana, you may be saying we did record this and you're going to put it out on YouTube.
Yes, we have a PSNA YouTube channel, so I'll share it on there, and then I will also email it out to everyone that RSVP'd for today. And then we have an internal social media type software that we use with our members. I'll post on there also, so all of our members.
Perfect. So that those who could not join us will have an opportunity to see this.
Yes, and Shirley, thank you for sharing your wealth of knowledge. This was amazing. You provided really great websites. And if you don't mind, I'd also like to share your slideshow, just because it does have all the links in there, and I think that would be very helpul.
I think that's important, because there are a lot of websites there.
Yes.
And I went to some kind of training session, and they had, they're doing the PowerPoint on the board, and I'm writing this all down, and I look around and everybody else is taking pictures of the screen. I'm very, very old school from that.
I wrote them all down too, Shirley. No worries.
Well, then you're going to fit in with those old people in Union County in the League of Women Voters. Yeah, you're going to be good. Okay, but I want to thank you, and the league thanks you for asking us to share, because we think it's very important that you understand the process, that you know where to go for information, and that you will be voting this month and November.
Well, this was very thorough. Thank you so much, Shirley. We really appreciate it. We appreciate your time and your information, and hopefully we can do this again sometime.
Yeah.
Just give us a call.
Great.
Thank you
Shirley.
so much.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for attending today.
Thank you. Goodbye.